Yeah. You're listening to the Wild Die Podcast. 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 Listen 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 to the Wild Die Podcast.
Welcome to the Wild Eye Podcast, episode 112. My name is Eric Lamour, aka No Sleeves McGee, and here is my co-host for today, Karl Big Deal Keysler.
Hey, what's up, Eric? How you doing?
Going?
Yeah,
it's going. Nice weekend after a crazy week, like we were talking about in the news.
Yeah.
Gary's nowhere to be seen this morning, probably sleeping in. So we'll go on without him. That said, I wanted to bring up that this week also big news. It was Karl's big 5-0 birthday. So happy birthday, buddy. Thanks,
man. It was a good time. Yeah, it was awesome. Big 5-0. Feeling old.
You don't look it. You don't act it either.
Good. These games keep us young. Keep gaming.
Yeah, I mean, people, every time you hit a big milestone, they ask you if you feel any different, but yeah, I'm sure you don't.
Not really. No, it's just another day to me. So, I mean, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So today, we're going to go back to our campaign series a little bit in element, and months ago when we were getting set up for this campaign, I asked our listeners and people on social media if they had any requests for topics for campaign, and one of them that came up was downtime. So I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about it. I think I wouldn't say I made a 180 on how I felt about downtime, but just the fact that I'm playing a campaign right now, I guess I open up to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that and see how that can apply, of course, to Savage Worlds, how you can, if there are any mechanics or tricks that you can use to make it more savage. So let's take it to the edge with that. So let's start with maybe a definition, what our definition is of downtime anyway. For me, it's basically that unit of time in between scenes. How you feel that that time, it can apply to R&R when you get to a city after a dungeon crawl, or after a smuggler's run, in your space campaign, your space opera. So I mean, that's basically it. Usually it's things that don't really apply to the campaign, to the story arcs anyway in the campaign. It's an opportunity for the characters to just be themselves.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
So why were you against it, or were you against it? Or what was the deal? You said something at the beginning of the show, like.
Well, the main reason I think it's because I prefer one shots, and I don't feel like downtime is a good use of your time in a campaign or anything extended anyway. There's going to be some, but it was something that, it's still something that in a one shot I'll hurry along. You want to buy a sword, fine, buy the sword and let's move on. I'm not going to role play the vendor, and we're not going to spend 20 minutes just shopping. Just move on. But in a campaign, I think because it's over a longer period of time. And we've talked about this on the show before. There's different pacing, and sometimes, if you just spend 2 hours, doing a combat or a chase and something very exciting, you kind of need to, pace it down a little bit, let people relax and get into their characters a little bit and just, mess around, and then you can pick it back up. So
yeah, it helps with breaking the scenes up, so you're not doing combat and then, okay guys, we go over here, then we do another combat, and right after that, guess what, there's another combat. It breaks it up, so it helps the players really get into their characters too. That's another thing that I love about Downtime scenes and things like that. You can really get good characterization out of that, and it's great for a GM to listen at what they want to do, because you can use some of that as the next maybe plot point or next story point. Like use that NPC that they've been talking to, that suddenly they go in to buy a sword, and there's the one-eyed swordsman that's talking with a funny accent, that you just make up on the fly. Suddenly they like that guy and they want to go back to him more and more and more. And, boom, you got an instant NPC there, and maybe he'll give them their next adventure to go on, like another plot hook or something. It's just all like trails one right after the other. You can just follow it and you can just link them together like that. That's why I like Downtime.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, since I've been running a campaign for a couple months now, and the characters will just, the players, they'll just in between scenes they'll just role play. They'll just ad lib.
Right.
They're heavy metal musicians, and they're just talk about bands, and they'll talk about how they've been playing, or they'll just tease each other and things like that. And I find it hilarious, and and I let it go because they're having fun. So that's why. But like I said, I think part of it is really stick to the mantra or motto of Savage Worlds of fast, fun, and furious.
For sure.
And to me, Downtime is, it can be fun, but usually it's not fast and furious. So
no.
I that's another reason why I avoid it. But do you think there are ways that you can handle Downtime in a fast, fun, and furious way?
Definitely fun, fast for sure. Like when I was running my ETU game, the multiple times I've ran it with different groups, I would, because they're at school in ETU, sometimes the game would end, and most of the times I would try to end the game on like a big battle or a big dramatic task or something where they clean up that story arc right at the end, right there, that Savage Tale or that plot point right at the end. And then next time we come and play, I'll say, okay, it's been since your last encounter with that thing, that dramatic task you guys did, the ritual. Let's say it's been 3 days. And what have you guys been doing in these 3 days? Just tell me, just quick, go around the table, and we're just tell me, whoever wants to go first. And we would just role play a little bit, for each person, or they would just tell me, oh, my guy's, he wants to research that monster we just fought. So he's going to spend most of his time in the library in the special section looking at, occult books and stuff like that. And I might say, okay, give me a roll. And then I'll go on to the next person. And I said, just remember that what you rolled, and I'll go into the next person and listen to what they're doing. And as they're doing that, I kind of getting ideas on that first person's roll. You know what I mean? And then I go around the table and I get maybe a roll, or maybe it doesn't even need a roll. Maybe it's just them telling me what they're doing. And maybe a little interaction with the NPC. Then I'll go back to the top and say, okay, that occult roll, this is what you discovered, because it gives me time to think while they're talking to me and telling me what's going on. So I just keep the action going. So it's fast that way, But Furious, I don't know. Furious Downtime.
Well,
But yeah, definitely fast and fun.
Here's one thing that I've been doing in my campaign. Well, we've only done it once, but I can see other opportunities for that down the line. And it's one mechanic that to me is not is underused in campaigns, and I like that mechanic. And I would say I don't use it nearly enough, and that would be the interludes.
Yeah.
So, being part of a heavy metal band, of course, they're going to perform at the different venues and things like that. And it's not something that I would want to role play through the whole thing every time, because it doesn't always apply to the story, to the plot, to what's going on. Sometimes it's just like you at ETU, it's just people being in their class. You're not going to role play that because there's nothing interesting unless you had a planned encounter around that you know, your teacher, you know, morphs into a werewolf in the middle of a lecture. Then that becomes a scene. But so for them playing at a venue, what I did is I made a little chart, like an interlude chart, with different results. So like if you draw a club, I don't have it with me right now, but it's something like clubs, something went wrong with your equipment during your gig, tell me exactly what happened and how you dealt with it. So that will be how they talk about their performance. Another one might be your performance inside a riot. Right, you know, there was a big fight in the bar while you were playing. What did you do? And did you join the riot? Did you join the fight and the mosh pit and things like that? One is it was such an inspiring performance that you everybody started singing along and, you know, had their lighters up and things like that. So that to me is using Savage Worlds mechanics to, you know, let them talk about it. So that's one thing. And like you said, maybe it's not that furious, but I mean, it sure feels Savage Worlds to me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Another one that I haven't tried yet, but I thought about it, was the influence the story Benny used. So, you know, sometimes as a GM, we're a bit, we don't want to let the players have a certain advantage or change the story in a way. But if you open your mind to it and let them spend a penny, maybe they could do it, you know. Maybe one player said, hey, my character really wanted that guitar. Can I spend a penny to, you know, just have it? In some cases, you might just say, well, I would probably just say, no, you don't really need to give me a penny for that. It's just a guitar, you know. It's something maybe that player actually drew the guitar and he's like, I want that one. And so you let him do it. So I think it's about, I think both of us kind of agree that it's about letting the players have more agency during these time. Of course, we know the bigger picture, and we might be like, I don't want you to do that because I have certain something prepared. But I think when you let that happen and you readjust your aim instead and, you know, play off what they're doing, it can make it more fun in the end. Because I know my players come up with twists and go into certain places that are way more fun than the path add them on a little bit. Like I could be thinking, hey, next scene I'm gonna have this guy come in and this is going to happen, but while role playing the downtime, they come up with another idea instead that is even better. Like not long ago, one of them was in jail for unpaid child support. and they had to go get him, but they're all minors, so they don't have they couldn't really do it without anybody's help. And also they wanted to get back to their van, which they called the Death Dealer, because there was a guitar in there that had a scroll, one of those vinyl scroll powers.
Yeah.
So they didn't know really where to go. But that happened during Downtime, where they, to me, I thought they would go straight to get the guy out of prison, of jail, but they didn't. They went to the Death Dealer first. And then because of that, I used, there was like some kind of elemental construct in the back of their van made out of all the junk that was in the van that animated. And I think it was a rubber, actually. One of the rubber in the van animated and told them that their buddy in jail was going to die, that they were going to get him. So because of that, it made the whole session a lot better, because there was some kind of foreshadowing coming from them going to another place first. So I always ask myself, when they want like something like maybe a special guitar or something, I always ask myself as the GM, is this going to really break the game? I mean, is it going to break anything? Are we going to go off the rails here? No. Or if it's going to make things, lean one way and then the other? No, not really. Most of the times, no. I mean, they just want a guitar, a cool looking guitar, like ETU. I ran ETU and they were like, I think some player wanted a katana sword. I'm like, okay, well, and then he said, well, it could be like a replica that I bought at a pawn shop. I'm like, that makes much more sense. Sure. Now he has to hide it. Now he has to make sure no other students see it, hiding it in his dorm. And if he uses it, oh my gosh, which he did, now he's got to explain like to cops, like, okay, you just slice this guy open, let's it just leads one thing to another. So they just got to be careful. But is it really going to break the game? No, it just leaves another interesting thing that you could throw at the characters, to make the game more interesting. That's the way you got to kind of look at it. Something I just thought about what you did with the replica. Maybe it breaks, or maybe it belonged, since it was in a pawn shop, maybe it belonged to someone who's looking for it now.
Exactly. Maybe it has powers or something that they want it back, and it's not. And he took the replica and maybe did a ritual, and now he has this cool sword, but he got arrested and they took it away, and somehow it ended up at a pawn shop, and now he's looking for it. I mean, it just leads one thing to another. So don't look at it like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to have this thing, because it might break the game or whatever. No, it's probably not going to do that. I mean, we have bennies, we have jokers in the game, all kinds of things that can swing combat and whatever in different ways in Savage Worlds. Just think about how can it add to the story? How can it like layer upon layer,
Absolutely. And like I always say too, bouncing off of what you said, as a GM, you have the power to come up with unlimited opposition to your players, to the characters. So if they, if through something smart or something cool, they go around one of your obstacles, you can always put another one after that, a different one.
Yeah. And that's not to say you're trying to screw the players out of whatever. You're just trying to make it interesting. You're just trying to make the game interesting. If they go through every obstacle, like say, like it's written down in the adventure, like they have great, maybe that's fine for one adventure. But if they keep doing it, where they just overcome these things like one or after the other, it might start to get boring. You got to judge your table. You can be the judge of that. You have to be the judge of that as a GM. You have to pick up on that, on how the players are acting. If they're tuning out and looking at their phones because it's boring, maybe spice it up a bit, and change it, like you said.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the interludes you said. That's really cool. I almost forgot about that, and I use it here and there. The interludes they're amazing, and you can tailor, because it's in the rules, but you tailored it for your game. You specifically tailored each category for your game, which is amazing. You can do that for your own game. Like if it's a fantasy game, maybe tailor, the choices to whatever you have. whatever you're running and stuff like that. So
Yeah, because if you look at interludes, 130, there's like 3 different types of interludes, and
right,
when you read them, I mean, one says downtime for interludes. So, I mean, it's what the hero does when left alone. A priest might quietly read a holy text while a warrior constantly sharpens his blade. There you go. Backstory and trek. So they're all, it's just me adding another one to the list of those 3. I did the same thing with Wise Guys too, where it's about their contacts and what happens to their contacts. So, and that can spur on another side trek or things like that. So yeah, I mean, when you look at interludes, it's pretty explicit that you can use it for downtime, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think ETU, if I remember, they have it where you do it before an exam or something. I think you get bonuses to your exam because you relaxed, you experienced some sort of downtime that just kind of chilled your character out. If I remember, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at that book and ran it. But that's another thing you can do. You can add a mechanic to it where maybe they get an extra Benny after it, which I always do. And I'm not sure, is it in the rules that they give bennies? You give them a Benny?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. Yeah. Or maybe you give them a +1 to like a certain skill for the next game or next session or something like that on top of that because of the good role playing or because of the good thing they thought of, So there's all kinds of things you can do with that downtime. And
I agree. One more thing I wanted to bring up, and it's because while we had you and the rest of the Savage Pathfinder developer team on the show, and they teased that something about downtime mechanics in there. So you've been playing, you've been playtesting. So you're gonna spill the beans right now.
Oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know what I could say. They are coming up with kind of a downtime. And of course, this is all being playtested. We're still playtesting stuff, and we're still changing stuff. And there was a major change this week that went through that just changed a bunch of things. Because when one thing leads to another, and you're just like, okay, maybe this is a better way. But yeah, they're coming up with something like, how wizards have to kind of read scrolls and read their spell books and study like that. It's a mechanic along something like that where I don't know if it's going to be in the book. I don't know yet, but something. I know I'm being wishy-washy because I don't know what I should say.
I understand. I put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I don't want to get in trouble.
I know that there was also, it's still out there. It's for deluxe, but I don't think it would really affect anything using it in Suede. But from Evil Beagle Games, they had a kind of a downtime PDF there that originated from Shankar, but I think you can use it for anything. I can't remember the name right now. I should have looked it up, but if you look up Evil Beagle Games, they have something, and it's a bunch of charts that you would roll on, and you would decide what you wanted to do, if you wanted to, train or things like that, and it would give you certain bonuses. So that's something to look at too. I mean, I guess like anything with Savage Rules, it depends how much focus and time does your downtime take in your campaign. Right. If you're like me and you just want to hurry it along and things like that, then you probably don't need it. But if your group enjoys the downtime, they enjoy just fooling around and kind of playing The Sims when they go into the city and be their character, then you could come up with some random tables of random events that happen during their downtime, and how training or crafting or things like that can give them benefits in the long term. So
Right. And encourage it with, like the interlude said, with a Benny, or maybe a +1 to their persuasion for the next session because, they did something really cool or something,
they got a nice suit.
Yeah, exactly. Something to encourage that. And that's what this whole thing is about, these role-playing games that we play about. We just try to get in that character and just bring him to life. So
that just reminded me of a new suit because there's the adventure card Dress to Kill.
Dress to Kill, yeah.
What if you made yourself like a custom kind of adventure deck, but you'd call it the Downtime deck, and it'd just be a bunch of random events. Yeah. I don't think it could be made for just any type of campaign, but if you tailor it for your campaign,
there you go.
That could be interesting too. And then you turn to a player and say, so yeah, you were in town and this happened.
Yeah.
What did you do about it? And then maybe just, you don't want to spend a whole session on it, or maybe you do, but if you want it to be fast, fun, and furious, you could just do a quick encounter with that, or like you do, just one roll. How did you deal with it? Well, I try to fight the guy, or I try to avoid him. So, okay, give me stealth. And all right, you got away from the guy. So
that could be a product for somebody out there. Savage Worlds interlude deck, or Savage Worlds downtime deck. It's almost hard to say.
That's a mouthful. But it's just ideas to, make it feel more savage, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Good ideas.
All righty. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. Kind of cliffhanger. Well, not cliffhanger, but leaving with more questions than answers. And that's how you get people to think a little bit. So
all
right, let's wrap this up. We talked about it earlier in the show, and also, we should have talked about it in the previous show, but we forgot. In case you didn't know, we did an interview, a Q&A with the Pathfinder dev team, and that's on YouTube now. It was a live show on Twitch, but it's available on YouTube, and they revealed quite a bit on there. I think if you're curious about it, most of the questions that people had, the team answered them to the best of their ability and knowledge at the time. Like Karl's saying, it's still going through playtesting, so there's some things that might change, so you don't want to lead people on, and
So as we're playing and we're discovering things, and the really rules guys, Shane, Chris, Michael, and Donald, they really hone in on what's really needed to make it feel like a Pathfinder, but yet keep the Savage Worlds feel of the game. So things are changing left and right, but for the better. It's one idea leads to another, and maybe this is a better way. Like I said earlier, it's pretty amazing what they're doing. So
I think everybody's excited, and should be going live on Kickstarter later this month. So we don't have a date yet. I'm sure Karl knows the date, but I'm not going to say that.
No comment.
Oh, man. One time I'll get you. I think we need to start recording the show in person, and I need to get you some drinks.
Oh no, we'd be in trouble then. You don't want drunk Karl.
Drunk Karl with the big mouth entrance. So there's that. I'll put a link again if you don't know how to find it. It is our YouTube, the Wild Eye. You'd find it on there. And also for our patrons, I released another episode of the Sleeveless Diary. This is my kind of audio blog where I just talk. So if in case you don't have enough of me talking on this show and you want more, you can check this out. For this, I'm talking about campaign tropes. Basically, I'm kind of walking people through what my thought process was when building this homebrew campaign boomstick that I'm running and hopefully will release. So how I started. So I start with the campaign Tropes. It's basically Evil Dead meets Detroit Rock City or Deathgasm or even Uncle Peckerhead. Watch.
I just watched that. Oh my gosh. It's so hilarious. It's really good. It's on Amazon Prime for free if you got it. Oh my gosh, so good.
So yeah, I walked through, how I started with that. So if you're a patron, you can check it out. If you're not a patron, well, this is your opportunity to come listen to me babble and say stupid things.
It's good stuff. I listen to it, and it's really cool because you're making a setting right now, and you're talking about it. That's really cool. So we really get the process of what goes through the creating of a Savage World setting. It's fun listening to those. It's really good stuff.
Thank you. You're too kind.
No, it is. Seriously. I can't wait for the next one to see what you talk about. So
yeah. They'll be coming maybe this month or next. I'm not sure. Whenever I can find the time for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, people listening, thank you for joining us again for another episode. Sorry Gary wasn't there. You can just send in hate mail if you want. That's his fault. And we hope you join us for the next episode. So with that said, this is Eric saying, get yourself a big deal.
This is Karl saying, do you want to Benny that?
This is Gary saying, pants on, keep it fun. Thanks everybody. We're
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Wild Eye Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with us, our email address is thewildeye@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. But for us, we're the Wild Eye Podcast. Also, we do have a Patreon. So if you would like to support us, our address is www.patreon.com/thewildeye. And speaking of which, the Wild Eye Podcast would like to thank the following patrons: Rob Towell, Conrad Erasmus Neuberg, Corey Judd, Emma Wakeland, Kevin Stanley, Perry Chalmers, Ray Racia, Dan Brown, Nan Jetmon, Daniel Sams, Mr. Stagg, Zovia RPG Maps, Chris Grant, Robert Dorgan, Andy Hall, Brian Kaser, Daryl Kexier, Jens Kronheim, Sid the Squid, Knuckle Dave Anderson, Tor Bjertness Peterson. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later.